Okay, Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're well. And if not, I hope this encourages your practice so you can get well. How's that? Today, we are going to wrap up the 4 stages of resolve, 5 stages of practice, Gosho. And so far, it's been really dense with information about what's often our most important. I'm trying to adjust my camera here a little bit. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah, what's most on our minds when often, probably shouldn't be, but I mean, are we always concerned that we're practicing correctly, and what should we do to either deepen our practice or to ensure that we're doing it right? This Gosho is quite direct about the method of Buddhist practice, the doctrine of Nichiren on Lotus Sutra practice specifically, but Lotus Sutra practice is, hopefully with all the scholarship we've read about by now, the pinnacle of what Shakyamuni Buddha was trying to teach from the very start. And so the Lotus Sutra then, as we've learned, very specifically from Nichiren, is the culmination of all of the teachings of Buddhism. This is why invoking its title, the Daimoku, MyoHoRenGeKyo, and our dedication to it, Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo, is the ultimate practice, because by doing so, we are practicing the entirety of scholarship. In other words, the central point of why Buddhism, why practice at all. This is the point, MyoHoRenGeKyo. That is the point. That is the ultimate teaching. Not only is it the ultimate teaching, but it's the ultimate teaching for you and I. In this time, with the capacity that we have for understanding, with all of the myriad distractions that we have that 2,700 years ago they simply did not have, we need a tool, a method of awakening that is absolutely universal, works for everyone no matter what their life condition. We need a really excellent way to practice Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo, to practice Buddhism, to practice our invocation of our Buddha nature. 3,000 years ago, the practice maybe involved a lot of other strictures and rules and precepts and everything, because that's what the people at that time needed to get them to a place of understanding of how their mind-body works. We don't need that training today. That training would be redundant today. It would be a distraction today. This is why it's said constantly throughout all of these, not just Nichiren, but other sutra, that earlier teachings are useless. Not that they're not useful in helping us conceive of the grandeur and the scholarship of Buddhism. If you read through the Lotus Sutra and it just befuddles you, some study might do some good in order to open your eyes to what the Lotus Sutra is actually talking about. You know, just like an argument, if all you say is the end result of your argument, not everyone might follow you. You'd have to build an exploratory situation. Just like in science, we have a hypothesis, what we think is happening, and then we test it repeatedly, and if we get a result repeatedly, then we can say we now have a theory. A theory isn't something invented in our heads. A theory is an accurate description of observation. People don't understand that. Not everyone understands that about science. The word theory is used in casual vernacular as like a guess But in science, that's not the case at all. A theory has to go through a series of hypotheses and be repeatable and agree with observation before it can achieve the label of a theory, an operating theory, not a fanciful guess, not at all. So understand that. But as far as Buddhism goes, you could look at it in a similar fashion. This is all the scholarship of Buddhism is a huge training exercise in understanding the message in the MyoHoRenGeKyo, in the Daimoku, in the Lotus Sutra. And this is what Nichiren scholarship is all about. To point that out, to indicate it, to show how all of the sutras and commentaries point to it, that there is no other way to practice Buddhism for us in this time, this age, this latter day. Got it? Okay. So let's continue with Nichiren here. We're in this question and answer portion, and so we took a break last time as he answered a previous question. We're now going to start with another question. Question: when your disciples, without any understanding, simply recite with their mouths the words Namu MyoHoRenGeKyo, what level of attainment do they reach? I guess an equivalent question to us today would be, how's that work? What if I don't study? And you, of course, you need to study to some degree. Just watching this video is study. So as long as you're looking for materials to help support and understand why you're practicing and how to, then you're studying. I'm not saying you have to study all the sutras, all the commentaries. I've studied a great deal, and I haven't exhausted all the sutras and all the commentaries. There's a lot out there. This is why I give you advice when you're listening to these, or if you're reading the Lotus Sutra and there's some passage or some word that goes by and you go, what does that mean? You can use, the sutras will have some indices and some appendices so that you can go and research it in there. And hopefully that'll give you a good enough answer so that you at least understand what you're reading, right? But maybe it piques your interest. Maybe you read about the 10 factors, or there's a lot of 3s, 5s, 9s, consciousnesses. What does Lotus Sutra teaching teach us about those things? And sometimes it's fascinating if you're a knowledge hound like myself. You'll use Google, for instance, and you'll research a term like the 10 worlds, and it'll come up with a lot of Nichiren results. But if you research one aspect of those 10 worlds, or maybe a broader term that's, let me think. Anyway, you may come across different sects, different sectarian little organizations and groups that have interpretations of these terms that seem different, maybe outright odd. They disagree with what you have been researching so far. Please, please, please be smart about that. And by that I mean it's easy to fall down the rabbit holes of other sects and other organizations and things. Be mindful when you're reading the description of something in Buddhism that's being published from a Tripitaka point of view, or a Theravada point of view, a Hinayana point of view, or even another sect of Nichiren's point of view. Be aware that you're reading an interpretation through the eyes of something other than pure Lotus Sutra Buddhism, which is what Nichiren was the proponent of. People will skew, even the description of who Nichiren is will be skewed by certain sects or organization, because their primary function is to support their organization, not to represent the accurate foundational scholarship of Buddhism. Even the way Nichiren did. Some will tell you that he's the actual Buddha. They do this to establish themselves as superior to others, instead of the teaching being the primary objective. Their sect becomes the primary objective. Do you understand? I talk about all the time the politics involved in these leadership roles, where they gain members, money, favor from the ruling classes, the elite. Those people are polluted by power, where they should be the most honorable of teachers. The best teacher is the person who gets out of the way, who points to places where you can find the information you need, because ultimately, as you've heard me say many, many times, the ultimate teacher is you, yourself. So if you're not getting it, then look at the teacher, you. I can give you tremendous amount of support. I can point to sources. I can give you my personal insights. But I can't tell you how to enlighten yourself, other than to support your decision to chant MyoHoRenGeKyo. I'm doing exactly what Nichiren is saying. I'm not trying to color. This is why my whole project is to read these things with you, so that you can hear from me my plain language experience and insight of what Nichiren is saying. You may disagree with me, or you may agree, but you may see something other in there. Great, that's what the Sangha is for us to flush it out. Not so that I get it better, but so that you get it better, for your path to develop. And if you use the comments section and tell me how you agree or disagree, and you point something out, you give me an opportunity to deepen my understanding and to support your understanding, or to redirect my understanding or yours. That's the function of the Sangha, so that we clear our personal paths to our awakening, our Buddha nature, right? So, what level of attainment do you reach if all you do is chant Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo? It's an odd question for me anyway. So, answer, Nichiren says, not only do they go beyond the highest level of the 4 flavors and the 3 teachings, as well as that attained by practitioners of the perfect teachings set forth in the sutras that precede the Lotus Sutra, but they surpass by 100, 1,000, 10,000 million times the founders of the true word and various other schools of Buddhism, such as San Wu Wei, Qi Yen, Tzu En, Qi Sang, Dao Xuan, Bodhidharma, and Shandao. So Bodhidharma, of course, is the founder of Zen Buddhism. So what he's saying is all these other forms of Buddhism, they're earlier provisional teachings, and now in the latter day, those teachings, they're only they're stepping stones. They're, for us today, are partial. See, you need to understand, Nichiren isn't saying that all previous forms of Buddhism are bullcrap, that they're of no value. What he is saying is that for you and I today, at our time, with our capacity, those teachings are ineffectual. And following them is actually a deterrent taking you away from your perfect enlightenment, which resides with MyoHoRenGeKyo, Lotus Sutra. Do you understand? It's easy to get confused here and saying, that one bad, this one good. It's not a contest like that. It's simply saying that you can't put a man on the moon if all you do is learn addition and subtraction. We need addition and subtraction, of course, but it is not the essential. It is not the ultimate. It is not the step that finalizes your achievement of enlightenment, Buddha-ness. It is wholly inadequate. Only the practice of chanting the Daimoku, the MyoHoRenGeKyo, will get you there now. So he's saying it right there. He's been saying it, but there it is repeated. Therefore, I entreat the people of this country, do not look down upon my disciples. If you inquire into their past, you will find that they are great bodhisattvas who have given alms to Buddhas over a period of 800,000 million kalpas, and who have carried out practices under Buddhas as numerous as the sands of the Hiranyavati and Ganges rivers. And if we speak of the future, they will be endowed with the benefits of the 50th person, surpassing that of one who gave alms to innumerable living beings for a period of 80 years. These are a lot of references that you, please follow them. They're very interesting. They are like an infant emperor wrapped in swaddled clothes, or a great dragon who has just been born. Do not despise them. Do not look down or on them with contempt. So this is a reference to a lot of people who are practicing Buddhism, in their first months, their first year, for several years for some. It takes a while to get the horse galloping, right? For some of us, we start practicing Lotus Sutra chanting, and man, we dive bomb into that. It's just so amazing. And then for everyone, there's a tapering off period where we're not sure. We let doubt creep in again. And so then we have to study more so that we can, oh yeah, I remember now how amazing this is. Oh yeah, that's what's happening to me. Oh, that's the obstacle I'm facing now. Oh, let me chant about that. And then you get back into it and you start to really get more energy and you get more insights and more ahas. And then, you run into an aha where you go, holy crap, I don't know. And it overwhelms you again. Well, we're human. We go through this roller coaster. That's called life. And as Nichiren has pointed out in previous letters, suffer what there is to suffer and enjoy what there is to enjoy. But at the end of the day, chant Daimoku and have a glass of wine or whatever with your wife, your husband, your partner, your significant other. Relax and savor what it is to be alive and to practice Buddhism. Right? Nichiren's always reminding us, take a break. Know that this is true and then relax into it. Sometimes our lives run into more static than others. And that's great. This is where Nichiren says, well, take that frustration to your mandala. Chant through it for the best possible result, whatever that is. Be prepared for change. Because life is change. Everything is change. Everything is always in a state of flux, including your awakening. Just get comfortable with that. Don't let it stop you. Use this and find out. This is the Swiss Army knife of Buddhist practice. Some points in our lives we pull out a corkscrew and we chant and we corkscrew through it. Other times of our lives we just chant like a galloping horse and everything's just moving and we just need to sustain our chanting, and it's like that nice sharp knife out of the Swiss Army knife. Other times we need a different tool, but every time it's MyoHoRenGeKyo that opens up that army knife and allows us to burrow through our samsaric existence to once again reside in our Buddha wisdom, our Buddha nature. Make sense? All right. What he's pointing out here, though, to finish my thought, is that other members may be at a different state of development than we are, than you are. Or you may be one of those that you feel like other members look down on you. Chant about it. Because they shouldn't be doing that. But it does you no good to go and confront them and go, you are not practicing correctly, you are looking down on me. That doesn't help anything. You know, if they're smart, they'll hear that as, oops, yeah, my attitude's screwed up, let me go chant. But the likelihood of that depends on where you and they are, right? Rather, the solution always is to bring that to your daimoku. Bring that to your gohanzan. Use this mandala of gohanzan to open that up and fight through it. And it will change without you saying a word other than Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo, right? So, yeah, we practitioners should not look down on one another. We need to remember that everyone's at a different stage of development. You know, we need to fill our fuel tank of daimoku, right? Gangyo's our engine, daimoku is our fuel, and we are the vehicle to drive into Buddhahood. I don't know if it's worth making a video about that, but it'd be a cute little cartoon, right? Hey, if any of you are animators, turn that into a little cartoon. I'll put it up on the site. It's a great little teaching tool, a visual, right? I'm so visual. All right, let's continue. Miao Lo writes, those who vex or trouble the practitioners of the Lotus Sutra will have their heads split into 7 pieces, but those who give alms to them will enjoy good fortune, surpassing the 10 honorable titles. Well, that's interesting because here are alms again. And whether it's financial or it's a roof over a head or it's chanting together with them or even sharing a video as we are, these are alms. These are support for one another. That should be our position with one another. If we cease to support our fellow practitioners in our Sangha, our heads will be split into 7 pieces. What does that mean? It doesn't mean a sword comes out of the sky and makes a pizza pie out of your head. It means that your thoughts will stray. Your doubts will become important and take over. You will have problems with your life / practice. They go hand in hand. Does that make sense? King Udayana behaved insolently toward the venerable Pindola Bharadvaja. Wow. And within 7 years lost his life. The Lord of Sagami condemned Nichiren to exile, and within 100 days armed rebellion broke out in his domain. See, he's giving examples here of how your mind splits into 7, your head splits into 7 pieces. Things get disorganized. Things overwhelm you. Your life, your samsaric life, becomes your hell. So don't do it. Laugh together. Look at mistakes and understandings as opportunities to bodhisattva, to help understanding. Right? That is what our lives should be, member or not, practitioner or not, to one another. That's one another who practice Lotus Sutra, MyoHoRenGeKyo. We're not talking about, Baptists or Islamists. We're talking about fellow Nichiren followers. The sutra says, quote, if anyone sees a person who accepts and upholds this sutra and tries to expose the faults or evil of that person, whether what he speaks is true or not, he will in his present existence be afflicted with white leprosy. In other words, your health will suffer. And other severe and malignant illnesses. There you have it. It also says that persons will be born eyeless in existences after. So you may lose your sight. You may go blind. These are typical assertions, right? The point is that right or wrong, if a fellow practitioner is doing something right or wrong, if your attitude, big reminder here, and I say this all the time, Buddhism is about the mind. So if your attitude, your intent in pointing out somebody's error is to be destructive, to tell them they're not worthy, you're worthless, you're doing this wrong, that attitude being destructive is what will rebound on you and cause you difficulty. But you can criticize somebody if it's with the attitude and intent of correcting, of helping them understand, right? It may happen to you. I would rather somebody came to me and go, what the hell are you doing? Do you understand this? Oh, crap. I hadn't thought of that. Oh, man, I've been so wrong. Thank you, brother. Thank you, sister. Right? That should be how we act in the Sangha. It's okay to correct each other with the right intent, the right attitude. Again, Buddhism is all about the mind. How do we live this life correctly minded? Right? What is awakening? It's correction of the way we perceive the world. Right? Myoshin and Echin contracted white leprosy in their present lifetime, while Doimidabutsu lost his sight. That's what I just said. The epidemics that afflict our nations are punishments of the kind described as, quote, the head being split into 7 pieces, end quote. So there's the personal practice, but we are part of a larger group. Our family, our community, our town, our county, our state, our country, our world. All of those are aspects of your life and mine. So the way we behave extrapolates far greater than our immediate experience. We experience it immediately, because if war breaks out, you're going to experience it at some level. But it's difficult for us in our daily lives, with the plethora of stuff that we're navigating, to remind ourselves that we are one in the innumerable parts of Earth, of this universe. It's you and me. I know we only see what we can perceive with our eyes and our minds, but our minds can go far beyond the limitations of our organs and our bodies. And that, too, is a big part of understanding Lotus Sutra, right? Certainly Nichiren. And if we surmise the degree of benefit according to the degree of punishment, then there can be no doubt that my followers, quote, will enjoy good fortune surpassing the 10 honorable titles. So it's not just about esteem, is it? The Buddhist teachings were first introduced to Japan in the reign of the 13th sovereign Emperor Kimei, during the 20 reigns, or more than 200 years, from the time until the reign of Emperor Kamu. Although the so-called 6 schools of Buddhism existed in Japan, the relative superiority of the Buddhist teachings had not yet been determined. In other words, it was still, for a couple hundred years, Japan was wandering through different schools of thought using Buddhism, but they hadn't really nailed it down or understood it correctly. So, his point here, then during the Enraku era, 782 to 806, a sage appeared in this country, a man known as the great teacher Dengyo, right, Saicho, before he was given the title Dengyo. He examined the teachings of the 6 schools which had already been propagated and made all the monks of the 7 major temples of Nara his disciples. In time, he established a temple on Mount Hiei to serve the head temple, and one over the other temples in the country to serve as its branches. In this way, the Buddhist teachings of Japan came to be unified in a single school. This was the great scholarship of Saicho, the Dengyo. The secular rule, likewise, was not divided but clearly established, so that the nation was purified of unlife-affirming thinking. If we were to speak of Dengyo's accomplishments, we would have to say that they all spring from the passage declaring the Lotus Sutra to be foremost among all the sutras the Buddha has preached, now preaches, and will preach. Right? In the period that followed, after Dengyo's passing, the 3 great teachers, Kobo, Jikaku, and Chisho, claiming to be following Chinese authority, expressed the opinion that the Mahavajrayana Sutra and the others of the 3 major true word sutras are superior to the Lotus Sutra. What happened? Why'd they deviate? Well, they all wanted to establish their own superiority, right? The ego. Moreover, they appended the term school to the true word teachings, a term that the great teacher Dengyo had purposely omitted in reference to that school, and thus recognized the true word as the 8th school of Buddhism. These 3 men each persuaded the emperor to issue an edict upholding the true word and propagated those teachings throughout Japan. Politics, ego. So that every temple accordingly went against the principles of the Lotus Sutra. In so doing, they utterly violated the passage concerning the sutras the Buddha has preached, now preaches, and will preach, and became arch enemies of Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Why does he say this? As I've explained before, enemies of the Buddha are enemies of the Lotus Sutra, are enemies because they take you away from the correct practice. They drive you away with other enticements from the proper teachings of Shakyamuni on the method of enlightenment for our age, for our time. Thereafter, Buddhism gradually declined, and the ruler's authority likewise became increasingly ineffectual. Japan started to fall apart. Internal conflicts, civil wars, right? The protective deities who had dwelt here for so long, such as the sun goddess and the great bodhisattva Hachiman, have lost their power. Brahma, Shakra, and the 4 heavenly kings have deserted the country, and the country is already on the point of ruin. What thinking person could fail to be pained at the at and to lament such a situation. Right? Because if you understand the teachings of Buddhism and you understand that the self is an illusion, that the self is the country, the self is the nation, the ruler, the economic circumstance, the weather, the health of the nation. It's a multiplication of the individuals in it. That doesn't take a lot of brain power to understand. And yet, these selfish leaders of Japan just looked at all the mess that was going around as just more challenge to their erroneous views. And instead of seeing it as a correction, they saw it as something that was more compounding of their stubbornness to be number one, right? In conclusion, Nichiren says, the false doctrines propagated by the three great teachers are disseminated from the temples, Toji, Shojin on Mount Hei, and Onjiji. If measures are not taken to prohibit the activities of these temples, then without a doubt the nation will be destroyed, and its people will fall into the evil, unlife-affirming negative paths. Although I have generally discerned the nature of the situation and informed the ruler, no one has ventured to make the slightest use of my advice. How truly pitiable. So this work, and we've just completed it, is generally held as one of Nichiren's 10 major writings. It is thought to have been written on the 10th day of the 4th month in the 3rd year of Kenji in 1277 when he was in Minobu. In the previous month, Toki Jonin, one of Nichiren's most learned and devout disciples, had sent him a letter via Nisho, one of his disciples, one of the 6 senior monks. Toki had expressed concern about how he might carry out a correct practice and appended a list of specific questions. This work is Nichiren's reply. In it, he stresses that chanting MyoHoRenGeKyo with a resolute mind is the correct practice for the latter day of the law and contains the merit of all the other practices within it, leading directly to Buddhahood. So that's an important statement right there. That's not Nichiren talking, but at any rate, it echoes what I've been saying, that the scholarship of Buddhism is spans the entirety of Shakyamuni's life, and that none of his teachings are to be discarded. But when it comes to the proper order and understanding of Buddhism for this age that we're living in, the Lotus Sutra is the pinnacle of his teachings, but it's also packed with concepts that you may have to unpack, in other words, go to previous sutras to be able to understand. But their support is of the Lotus Sutra, not the other way around. You can't say that the Lankavatara is the ultimate way to practice, like Bodhidharma would tell you. The Lankavatara is an important sutra to understand, but it leads to the understanding of what the Lotus Sutra is teaching. So before I choke on my own uvula, I need to get something to drink. As I failed to do so for this video, I apologize. But I hope this inspires you, inspires your practice, drives you to your mandala of Gohanzon. Chant MyoHoRenGeKyo with confidence that it will make a difference, that your life condition will improve, that things will resolve in your life. Many things you may not be aware need resolution, but they'll resolve themselves anyway and result in an observable change. That's actual proof, right? And with that, The 8 Winds is the next Go show. Should be very interesting, as they all are. Truthfully, that's why we're doing this. So, again, I have so much appreciation for your participating in these videos, just watching them. Please, 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 if anything crosses your mind that you have questions about, opinions about, or specific things that you would like some help researching, don't forget threefoldlotus.com. Threefoldlotus.com is my resource website. It has much of the research that I've personally done on the study page. There's a link right on the front page. When you go to threefoldlotus.com, look beneath the graphics, you'll see a green rectangular button there that says Core Study Material. Click on that. That will take you to a different home page within the same site, and that will have like, I don't know, 50 some buttons on it, all with labels that tell you what they're about. The 3 realms, the 5 factors, the 10 factors, the Daimoku, the Gohonzon, the all these. Where is the mind? Kind of. There's a whole series on that. So there's a lot of study material there that it's all free. You can download it. Most of it is PDFs. The stuff I couldn't put on the site that was too big is turned into HTML, so you can copy and paste that if you like. There's also a full translation, one translation of the Lotus Sutra by chapter, so you can read it online or print it out. I think there's even a free PDF download of the liturgy, the Gangyo with instructions and all of that. There's links to the bookstore where you can go see all kinds of books that I've written or assembled for study. This is just a huge resource site. There's tons and tons of stuff on there. It's all free. Unless, of course, you follow a link to, for instance, the bookstore or the Gohonzon store, and there's, minimal fees on those, just so I can't control the price of printing stuff and that kind of thing, right? Yeah, there's just a ton of stuff on there, so please use it as a resource. And if you have suggestions, maybe there's something I've entirely left out that would be very useful to have on that study page. Comments, that's what the comments are for. What else? Oh, and those of you who support with donations, huge thanks. Namo MyoHoRenGeKyo for that. I'm sure you realize, if any of you are doing any of this, that there's a cost, not only in time, but certainly financially, to keep this thing going. And the whole Sangha thanks you for that. Other than that, it's just me. Lonely old me. So thank you, really, from every part of my heart. And with that, I'm going to go get something to drink. Take care of your health, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye.